For thousands of years, the story of Adam and Eve has served as the quintessential origin tale of mankind's fall from grace and their exodus from the Garden of Eden. Eve, tempted by the serpent and knowledge, eats the forbidden fruit, causing paradise to be lost and humanity to inherit sin. But what happens when you take that narrative and you flip it on its head? In Stellar Blade, it is not Eve, but Adam who tastes the forbidden fruit first. And from this inversion, a whole new story of guilt, consequence, and a sequence of events is born. First, let me start by saying that Stellar Blade is not a retelling of the Garden of Eden story. Instead, what it does is it takes the various pieces on the board, their archetypes and their tropes, and moves them around to allow something new to emerge. I'll start by explaining, by briefly and reductively outlining the biblical story before we compare it to the story of Stellar Blade. So, in the Bible, Eve is tempted by the serpent, she eats from the tree of knowledge, the forbidden fruit, she offers it to Adam, and together they are cast out of Eden for their original sin. The result? A foundational story that places the burden of humanity's fall on curiosity and desire. But again, Stellar Blade subverts this. Instead, Adam is the one who seeks forbidden knowledge. Instead, Adam is the one who initiates rebellion, and Eve, our protagonist, is the one left to inherit the consequences. And, depending on what ending of Stellar Blade you chose or received, she chose to join Adam, much like Adam chose to join Eve in the biblical story. Adam in Stellar Blade is not a passive figure. He's a visionary, a revolutionary, but ultimately a liar and a tragic one. His pursuit of knowledge, of freedom, of truth leads to catastrophe, but it also leads to an enlightenment and/or an awakening. Essentially, the forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge, in Stellar Blade's context, would be the truth about Mother Sphere, which would later lead to an act of defiance and/or rebellion. And unlike his biblical counterpart, this Adam's fall isn't initiated by temptation per se. There's a lot more apparent autonomy in this Adam's decision as opposed to the biblical Adam. In a sense, his fall was not one of seduction, but one of sacrifice. This all leaves Eve in a very different place than her biblical counterpart. She, in turn, is not the one who sinned, and she's not the one who initiated any rule breaking. However, she is the one left to pick up the pieces. In Stellar Blade, Eve's journey mirrors, instead of temptation, more reconciliation. She isn't being tempted by forbidden knowledge, she's being confronted with it, be it by Raven's legacy accounts or Adam's manipulation. There comes a point at the end of the game when Adam finally offers her the truth, the full truth, out of his belief and what appears to be a very desperate hope. And in doing so, despite his questionable morals, in a sense becomes a martyr. As stated earlier in the video, Stellar Blade is not, in a sense, a retelling of the Garden of Eden story. Instead, what it does is take the many different archetypes and tropes emboldened by that story and moves them around, allowing a new sequence of events to take place in a very different world than the Bible. In a sense, Adam becomes the rebel, and Eve becomes our hope. One thing that can be equated between the two is that the fall was never the end, it was the beginning of something new. And with that, I believe the folks at Shift Up working on Stellar Blade set themselves up for an opportunity to make a very exciting sequel. But what do all of you think? What do you think of my ideas shared in this video? What do you think about a sequel to Stellar Blade, which Shift Up just announced that they're working on? You let me know. But until next time, you all be good out there, be good to yourselves and each other, and I will see all of you beautiful sickos and normies next time.